Welcome to Buckets. This is your host, Joe Dellera. I am filling in for our fearless leader, Matt Moore, and I am joined by Bryan Fonseca and Jim Turvey. How are you fellas doing? I know, Bryan, that you get to finally join with the actual future Jays instead of filling in for one of the Jays. So Jim, good to have you back here from Picking Radishes. Bryan, how are you doing today?
Did you see that throw by Caleb Williams before we started this?
Oh,
I know
Dude,
they lost. I know the Bears lost, but like that is something I thought only works in Madden. It was ridiculous. It's one of
that
the
was a
best throws
fake.
I've ever seen.
That was a just absolute prayer that he threw up there. So what a throw. Um, I know our guy Sean is going to be a little disappointed heading into this Monday slate though. So just tough one for him and all the Chicago fans. But what a season they had.
Sorry,
Jim, how
Sean.
you doing today?
good. I was also rooting for the Bears there. And bummer that we didn't pull it out. We being I'm a true Chicagoan, so as of 2 seconds ago, I was rooting for them. No, but good to be with Fonseca. Usually, you're filling in for me today. I guess we actually get to hang out and pod together, which is a blast. We obviously do a lot during W season, but I think this is the first time we've done NBA podcast this year. So glad to have Joe in the middle and me and you out on the wings running a little 3-on-2 fast break here.
I like it.
I know. I feel like the Atlanta Hawks right now. Like we just don't have like a real point guard right now, and we're so that kind of leads us into our main conversation for today. So there were a couple teams that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, this is our Future Jays episode. We're going to talk all things futures, and there's two teams that really kind of caught our eye leading into this week of the NBA. And obviously, the one that we continue to talk about endlessly is the Atlanta Hawks, and we've been talking about the Trae Young trade and what they did or really like didn't get back for him. At the end of the day, Trae Young, still a multi-time All-Star, a guy that, even though it was a little bit of a flawed run, still took a team to a conference finals. And when we look at that, Bryan, what's your takeaway from what you've seen from the Atlanta Hawks since the Trae Young trade?
Eh, you know, part of the problem is that as a reformed CJ McCollum truther, because I think people were a little too hard on him in the late 2010s. Um, he hasn't been a true, real impact guy in about 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
The on-off would suggest that at least. And when you watch, he's become one of these dudes where he can get you 20 points. He can occasionally get you 30. He's been playing more point guard in recent years than he probably should. That's not his natural position. It's not like he can't do point guard things, but that's different from being an actual point guard. Trae Young is a point guard. The problem with Trae Young is, for whatever reason, he just can't shoot the damn ball sometimes. And the shot selection and also the defense. So, like, while they got rid of one problem, you kind of inherit similar issues in different forms with somebody in CJ McCollum who's not as dynamic as Trae Young could potentially be. And then with Corey Kispert, who's fine. We know what he is. He's a shooter, and ultimately he's going to get minutes so long as he can make 3-point shots. But it felt like, hey, we're not re-signing Trae Young. Let's get something for him and figure this out later. It's entirely possible that both of these guys aren't even on the roster next year. And what my eyes are focused on is what happens with Kristaps Porzingis. Because while I think the Hawks have other things they can do contractually, if you just look at the salary sheet, Kristaps Porzingis is the one to me where, are you going to try to use him to trade up and potentially get an Anthony Davis? Are you going to try to use him to break him into multiple role players because he makes $30 million? Or are you going to say, you know what? Let's ride this out. He's been pretty good when he does play, really good at times and impactful, but the reliability is not there on a consistent basis. So Porzingis is the thing that, for me, I'm kind of fixated on as it relates to this roster and what they do with him.
Yeah, I mean, swapping out Kristaps Porzingis for Anthony Davis from a reliability perspective seems hilarious.
Right.
But it does seem, Jim, that well, I saw a tweet and it kind of made me laugh, and it was that the All-Star trial run for Jalen Johnson has run out. But without Trae Young, you like, again, like kind of what Bryan was saying, you don't have that true number one like facilitator. That's what Trae was, and he's still like you could still go out there every night and put up 28 and 10 probably without really thinking about it too much. How do you see this Atlanta Hawks team? Like, do they just have a new problem now, Jim? Or is this something that you're kind of concerned with, moving forward for the rest of the season now?
I think Brian laid it out really well of kind of like pointing out that, by bringing in a offensive first, small, easy to pick on, bad defense guard, like it's kind of just like a bad version of Trey. So like they cleared themselves of maybe, people not like other players not wanting to play in Trey's system. I know that was like a little bit of a thing.
Yeah.
But I haven't loved what I've seen of this Atlanta team since CJ arrived. And we're 4 games in. Like, this is definitely a small sample. But the East has, got some sneaky depth there. And I know, Brian, you and I are kind of Team Hornets here. Like, they're kind of lingering right below the Hawks. The Bucks are right there as well, even though they've been slipping. They still have Giannis. Like, they could pretty easily slip out of the play-in tier even that they're in if they drop a couple games while they're trying to figure stuff out here. We've seen CJ had about a 32% usage rate since he came to Atlanta. That is way too high.
Jalen Johnson, it's number 1.
Yeah,
it's the highest on the team.
And by far, Jalen Johnson's down in like the low 20s now. His assist rate's taken a hit too. We'll talk about it more because I've got that from my prop today. I've been pinning Jalen Johnson unders because it clearly is not really working. What I do think is interesting though is I looked at our old friend there, Data Baller. And when CJ and Jalen are on the court together, they've actually been pretty good. They're actually about a plus 8.3 in 54 minutes together. So that's working. I do think that the other thing that Brian brought up, and he's a little more looking to like maybe ship KP out of town. And maybe that is the play if like Porzingis just isn't going to like ever get on the court and like you want something, because honestly, without them, they've been pretty dicey this year. So with Porzingis on the court, they've got plus 5.5 net rating this season. With him off, minus 2.7. Minus 2.7 is basically like a good lottery team. Basically the exact spot you don't want to be. That's like the 11 seed in the East. Like, if Porzingis isn't going to play for them, I've been an Onyeka Okongwu guy for a while. He has not translated really well to starting this season. It's been kind of a bummer. So, if you look at the makeup of the East, where we have, 8 pretty solid teams, even if one drops off, you've got, like I said, Charlotte and Milwaukee behind who are decent. I think the market's a little bit behind right now. If you look at the projection systems out there right now, most of the projection systems say that the Hawks are about like a 1 in 3 chance to make the playoffs. I think Dunks and Threes and Basketball Reference both have them around 33%. The market's saying that they're a favorite to make the playoffs. If you look at most books have it minus money for them to make the postseason, plus money for them to miss right now. I think a bit of that is the potential for them to make a move. Anthony Davis is a name they've been connected to, but like you said, Joe, like the only possible way to look at Anthony Davis and be like, this guy is reliable, is if like Kristaps Porzingis is your current center. Those like he is the only bar that Anthony Davis can clear. I just don't really like if Anthony Davis arrives, that makes me interested in the Hawks ceiling. But it doesn't really make me interested in their floor. I still think there's a decent chance he misses multiple months, and they are pretty decent, but not good enough to make the postseason here. I mean, the real issue here is you can't combine Dyson Daniels and CJ McCollum into one player, because really, if you could, it would be a great player. You've got CJ, who's like, a solid above average offensive player. You got Dyson, who's still a really good defender. Dyson can't hit a shot to save his life. He's killing the offense. So CJ's getting roasted on defense. And all that happens is both are unplayable in like important moments. So, theoretically, you want to be able to combine the two. Unfortunately, you can't really do that. Instead, you just got 2 players who aren't really doing a whole lot. Now, maybe the shot comes back for Dyson. He did shoot better last year, but the confidence doesn't look there at all. So if you're looking at just at what's in front of you, what we have seen from the Hawks, I don't think this is one of the 8 best teams in the East. I honestly don't think they're even in the top like 9, 10. Like they're not that good a team right now. I know that there's some big names right now. Jalen Johnson has been awesome. He's taken strides. It is funny, Joe. We were talking about how this was his moment to make the leap for most improved. We had Denny miss a few games, and Jalen Johnson has his worst stretch of basketball. It's terrible timing for anyone who's a Jalen Johnson ticket holder for most improved. If he had like 4 straight triple doubles or something again when Denny was out, I think he could have taken the lead in this, but that appears to be cooked now. But yeah, just circling back, like I'm not loving what I'm seeing from Atlanta. I do think that they'll work it out with CJ and Jalen eventually, and like that Jalen will get back into his good usage role, and they'll be a decent team. But the East has some decent depth now, and I just don't think that if you're seeing projection systems saying 33% to make the postseason, and we can get them to miss the playoffs at plus money, I think it's a pretty interesting look.
Yeah, I do think that there's something to be said about, um, when you bring in players, like you bring in new talent, it does take a little bit of time to kind of acclimate these players to each other. And maybe there is a version of this team that does work where, you have a CJ McCollum working really well with what Jalen Johnson does because he can shoot. I would say that he's a better version of some of the depth that they have on their roster, but it's more just, they've put him into a role that's a bigger role. Like they didn't put him in to play 20 to 22 minutes a night. They put him in to play in the mid 30s.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the swing is, because that, again, like to your point, is putting in essentially a Trae Young level of defense without the same level of offense into this kind of system. So I think it's definitely something to kind of consider. But do you think that this is a spot where we should be selling, or do you think, Jim, that this is a spot where we're, kind of buying the slide a little bit too early, or is this still like there's warning signs going off, we need to be buying now?
I think that being able to get plus money on them to miss the postseason right now, if we kind of lay out the East, like I said, you got the big names up top in the Clevelands and the Detroits and the New Yorks. And you've got that middle tier with Boston, Philly, Miami, Orlando. And then I'm forgetting one of the 8 there. But we've got 8 teams that are pretty much look pretty solid for the postseason. And then it's into the Bulls, the Hornets, and the Bucks. I think why you're getting them still favored to make the playoffs is the assumption that one of those teams above them, if something goes wrong for one of those teams, they're the team that slots in. I just don't know if I believe that. I think the Bucks could slide in that slot, and I think that honestly the Hornets, who are playing really decent basketball, now maybe they fold it up at some point, but I kind of think that getting plus money on the Hawks right now, I think that it's going to take them a little more time to click. I think now is the time to grab plus money for them to miss the postseason. I think that's a good bet right now.
All right, so I think that's going to take us to our future of the week. And Jim, or actually Brian, you tell us, what is our future of the week today?
The Atlanta Hawks to miss the playoffs.
Plus 115.
Plus 150.
At DraftKings.
I think the other element of this is that we haven't talked about. So Jalen Johnson has gotten hurt the last couple of years. He's been very healthy this year. He's played already more games this year than he did last year. We don't know, and I'm not saying he's definitively going to break down because of a scientific reason, but we have a little bit of a track record with this. And that's sort of the other piece here that no one's going to want to talk about, because it's like the guy who has a no-hitter through 7 innings. You just want them to sit, on the bench by themselves. You want to leave him alone. Jalen Johnson, he's not missing many games. You're actually getting a great season from him. He's going to be an all-star. But if he misses a month, knock on wood, knock on something, Hawks fans, if you're listening, if he misses some time, that's the other thing that can make this go sideways. Because we're talking about replicating Trae Young, and then it's all right, what if you have to replicate Jalen Johnson if he misses a significant amount of time? Only because we've been here before with Jalen Johnson multiple different times for somebody who over the course of the last 2 seasons combined has played less than 100 games, or fewer than 100 games. And this year he's at 40 already. Great. Hopefully he stays healthy. But if he doesn't, then that's another thing to watch out for too.
Yeah. I do think there is something to be said too, that when you look at this Atlanta Hawks team anyway, for the most part, everybody looks at this and they've been saying for the past however many years it's been, 7 years or so, this is a Trae Young team. That's what we were preparing for. And when you don't have him, then it kind of throws a wrench into your game plan. And I think that might have been part of why Atlanta looked so good to start the season. Teams are not totally prepared for what they were doing. Now it's we don't have to prepare for Trae Young. We're just preparing for this version of the Atlanta Hawks that we now have half a season's worth of data on, because we just know this is what they do. This is how they run the offense. This is how they play a basketball game. I think there's something to be said about teams, catching up to that across the NBA. So I really like this bet. And again, our future of the week is the Atlanta Hawks to miss the playoffs at plus 115. presented by DraftKings. So the other team that we wanted to talk about, Brian, was the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have looked pretty solid, honestly, across the board. And Anthony Edwards is putting in some good clutch minutes, wouldn't you say, Jim? So
hate to see it.
I do think that this Timberwolves team has looked fantastic. A number of the players that were formerly on the New York Knickerbockers also look great for this team. But Brian, what have you seen about the Timberwolves that's kind of impressed you lately, or really throughout the course of this season?
When you start hearing Knicks fans being like, you know what, I'd redo that. Then...
If three Knicks fans together, we're going to focus on Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo.
Still a Knicks podcast, guys.
What I will say is, Julius Randle as a native New Yorker, like, yes, I understand he used to piss people off. He was annoying to watch at times. However, I always thought he played his best basketball in New York when his playmaking in particular was impactful. When you saw the assist numbers up, and not just because of increased usage. This year so far, despite his usage, being lower than it was in his Knicks days, because obviously he's playing next to Anthony Edwards now, and I know he played next to Jalen Brunson for a period of time, but the usage is down to 26.5, which is probably around where you want it compared to when he was around closer to 30 when he was with the Knicks at times. But the assist percentage at 24.6, third highest of his career. The other two were both while he was with the Knicks pre-Jalen Brunson. So this is when it was essentially his team. Like, one of those was his All-NBA season, for example, his first All-Star season. Then the year after that, when the Knicks didn't make the playoffs, they had that down year, and then they've been a playoff team ever since. But that was pre-OG, pre-Brunson, pre this iteration of Knicks basketball. I'm seeing more of that. Like, this is good, legitimately really good complementary basketball we're seeing from Julius Randle that I think has been really impressive. Like, I had a lot of questions about, all right, how is this actually going to look next to Anthony Edwards? And I feel like Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle have really embraced like playing together on the court. There's a lot more chemistry there and synergy there than I thought there would be. And Anthony Edwards, I mean, he's not going to be the MVP, but he's going to be, I mean, if everyone keeps getting hurt, he doesn't and misses the 65 game threshold, but like he'll be on ballots. He'll be in those conversations probably at the 4 or 5 range more so than the top 1 or 2. But he's been really, like, as a shooter, because that was a question coming into the NBA too, like what level of shooter is he going to be? And it's not just the athleticism that was tantalizing, it was the shooting potential. And he's been a 40% 3-point shooter again on high volume again, 8.5 3-point attempts per game. He's making 42%. His 3-point attempt rate continues to be high, but he's making the shots, and he's doing it off the dribble. He can catch and shoot if he wants to, like, all these different ways. And then Jaden McDaniels, not always the most consistent, but he's made a leap, and the efficiency is there. Like, they still kind of feel like a really tough out to me. Like, I'm still like, all right, are they gonna break that glass ceiling and get to, the actual NBA finals as opposed to maybe the Western Conference finals? And honestly, if like this year, maybe even not that far, because the West is so loaded. We'll have to see who's healthy by then. But they're a good team, and I still think they should be looking at, like, or we should be looking at what they can do for the trade deadline. Everyone's looking at point guard. Maybe it's that. It probably is that. I don't think it should be Ja Morant necessarily, but there are some things out there that are interesting that they could potentially do.
Yeah, when I look at this team, obviously Anthony Edwards is at the forefront of it. But for me, Jim, I feel like Rudy Gobert has been just as important, despite some of the, some of the media, some of the narrative around him. It's quietly now like the second or third favorite for Defensive Player of the Year again. What do you think about this team? Because I feel like previously we've all kind of looked at Minnesota and said, well, they have a weak point here, they have a weak point here, there's something that's not necessarily there. Jim, when you look at this team and you look at some of the lineup combinations, what kind of popped for you when you're saying, like, maybe there isn't really a true weak point on this team?
Yeah, I was playing around with some of their, I mean, the Wolves are like as a, my day-to-day is projecting these teams. Minnesota is like my favorite team. They are so easy to project. They have, the same core 6 guys playing the same minutes basically every day. I will say I've loved how they have given Ant games off this season. They haven't pressed him as much. I talked during last postseason about how I thought Ant's conditioning was kind of sneaky, something that he needed to work on. I think he has worked on it, but I also think they are kind of helping him out by giving him games off here and there. I think that's translating to the clutch stuff. Sadly for us Shea clutch ticket holders, Ant is putting on just like absolute fireworks in the clutch. I think that's great for the postseason. I think that's, if he has fresher legs, if he's now, he had a really rough season in the clutch last year. Quietly, he scored a lot of points in the clutch, but his shooting was terrible. This year, he like can't miss in the clutch. That's great news if that sticks to the postseason. But like you were saying, Joe, the lineup stuff. If you look at their core, to the core, they really have the core 6, and it's all 5 starters plus Naz Reid. So if you look at their core 5, and then like with each guy, like one guy off, because you can just slot Naz Reid for basically any of those guys because Ant's a creator, and so basically you can slot all those guys in. All of those lineups are at least plus 7.5. So they're really one player away from having like the tightest, best 7-man rotation in, I would say, maybe outside of Oklahoma City in the league. And like, I know they got beat by OKC last year, and some of those games are pretty big blowouts, but I don't know. We're already seeing J-Dub banged up now. It's so hard to go back to back-to-back. I think at plus 700, they're a little bit of a sleeping giant right now. You guys are much more in the trade weeds. There were 2 names that kind of caught my eye that I thought would be really good fits for them, though. Trey Jones, local kid.
Yeah.
I know his brother left there a few years ago. Chicago's so dumb, they probably won't sell off, but I think he would be like a perfect, he's basically a young Mike Conley, and Mike Conley, I think he should stay there and be in like a leadership role because he's so good in that mold. But man, he's old, and the numbers don't like when he's on the court. And I think Trey Jones would be a great fit. The other one, a Memphis guard, but not John Morant, Cam Spencer. I don't think Memphis would probably flip them. He's probably like a relatively controllable asset, but I think he would be a perfect type that could be a, kind of creator and bucket getter off the bench as a guard for them. Rob Dillingham was the one that was supposed to be, kind of that guy. Terrence Shannon Jr. before the season, I thought was going to be potentially a guy. Bones Highland has actually been pretty good. I don't know if I super trust Bones Highland in the postseason, though. I'd want someone else as my number 7 guy. But if they add one like viable postseason dude, again at plus 1,700, when I have some questions about the Thunder trying to go back to back, the Spurs haven't been there before as much as I love them. The Nuggets are a juggernaut, and we probably should be adding Nuggets tickets every day, basically. But the price is short. I mean, the Wolves are plus 1,700 just to come out of the West. They've obviously been there. They've shown the bona fides. They've been to 2 straight conference finals. I really like this Timberwolves team. I think that you're getting a little bit of value just because there's so many good teams in the West that they got to leave the value somewhere. And I think it's here with Minnesota.
Yeah, I think the thing with looking at the Western Conference anyway is it's the problem with the West is it's so tight. Like between the Spurs all the way even to, we'll go to the Warriors, right? The Spurs are the 2nd seed and they have 13 losses. The Warriors are the 8th seed and they have 19. And if we want to even just go down to 6, where you got the Spurs 13 losses, the Nuggets 14, Wolves 16, Rockets 15, Lakers 16. Like all these teams are just like a bad week away from just slipping all the way into the play-in tournament. So it makes
Joe, can I hop in really quick?
Yeah.
Just to say that I also think that the matchups again are going to be everything in the West. Yes. And those are going to be changing till the last second. Like we could have the final day of the season and not know what these matchups are going to be. And they're going to be so essential. And I will say that to me, even though we've seen the Wolves have success in the postseason last years, they do have a little bit less flexibility because they go like 6 deep right now. And, maybe
they're all big.
Yeah. They and like Gobert gets played off at times. So like they don't have the flexibility, but they have the skill. And like, I think playoff Ant is up there with, he's in that top tier of player. So yeah, 100%. So you can have pros and cons to all these teams. I just think that at the number that they are at is a little bit too long for a team that talent wise is right up there. And then, if one or two things breaks right, they could be right there.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at them, I think you have to say you'd want both the Western Conference ticket and the title ticket, right? Like or are
Yeah.
you kind of in the boat of just saying, well, I don't know, like, because I think they're so matchup dependent. But if you look at the Eastern Conference and you look at the favorites, it's obviously, you obviously have New York, you have like Detroit, you have Boston, Cleveland's still getting priced there, but I think you'd have to say the series would at least be like even. It's not going to be like a landslide one way or the other when you're looking at the Eastern Conference compared to if the Wolves made it out of the West, right?
No, it's a great point. Honestly, you should just go for. I'm not sure why I did the West. I think I was shopping the West, just because I was looking at like which teams' odds caught my eye. But you're 100% right that I think you just go for the full ticket because, like, especially because we had that Pacers ticket last year and it was hard to hedge because the Thunder were such big favorites in the finals. This one, like you said, would probably be close to a coin flip, if not slight favorite for the Wolves. So you should theoretically get plus money on the Eastern Conference
because they're 28-1 to win the title, and Edwards is 30-1 to win Finals MVP. Which, I mean, like, they're just not gonna give it to somebody on the losing team. And like, what do you think that it's kind of one of those things? Like, do you think the Wolves can win the title with Julius Randle being the best player in the finals? Probably not. Like, I think it's
probably
tough.
not. I
It's
bet for 2,800 to 3,000, I think you just take the 2,800.
I agree. Yeah, I do agree. Even though I don't think it's likely, it's just not worth the extra.
It's such a small gap.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. So all right. So with that, we will turn it back to our fearless leader real quickly for Matt Moore for a quick word from our sponsor.
The Buckets podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook, and in partnership with DraftKings, our listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Pick 6 and have the shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
All right. Now we're back here, and we are going to be going into our best bets for the Monday slate. Just want to remind everybody, since today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, there are games starting at 1 o'clock. So you have basketball games all day. It's going to be it's a pretty big slate for a Monday. We don't normally get this many games, so we got plenty of things to pick from, plenty of opportunities, plenty of props, plenty of sides. So let's start with our 3-star plays, Brian, and we'll turn to you first for your first look on the Martin Luther King Jr. Day slate.
No Jalen Williams, so we're gonna back Aaron Wiggins here over 10.5 points right now. You could also take the threes if you want. I'll just go ahead and take the points here for the reasons I'm about to outline. Okay, Aaron Wiggins, he averages 15 this year, 14.8 to be exact, but 15 basically without Jalen Williams this year in the 9 games he played without him, which was early on this season. And then he missed some time. Then they both ended up coming back into the lineup. He's over 10.5 in 6 of those games. He's at 11 or more field goal attempts in 7 of those 9 games. And he started 5 of them, 24 minutes at least in all but 1. He's averaging, more than that during that stretch. So he seems to get these opportunities when Jalen Williams is out. And Jalen Williams, in the game he got hurt against the Miami Heat I guess 2 nights ago now, from the time people are hearing this, Aaron Wiggins had 18 points. And he ended up playing 28 minutes. So he's one of these guys. This was even happening last year. Like, he'll see a role increase. He has an honestly sizable role regardless. Like, he's going to play regardless, but he'll get more touches. He'll get more attempts. He'll get more looks. He'll try to generate more threes, more things for Aaron Wiggins. It's about opportunity for me and ultimately just making the shots. If he's 3 for 11, he's 3 for 11, and he probably goes under, and it is what it is. But ultimately, like, he's somebody who I think is high on the list of guys you can trust if Jalen Williams is not there, which we did see early on this season.
All right. No, I think that's fair. And honestly, I'm going to be in the same game, so I'm going to stick with my 3-star play quick, and then I'll turn to Jim. But my 3-star play is I'm looking at Donovan Mitchell under 28.5 points. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to 27.5. So I'm still good there. it's terrifying to take any Donovan Mitchell under, but I think that I'm going to be looking at this spot in particular because Oklahoma City's defense is just so good. And then honestly, too, if this game just gets out of hand, we could totally see Donovan Mitchell's minutes just getting slashed, as he's one of the guys that does get pulled in a lot of these blowout situations. Even without Darius Garland, we do see Donovan Mitchell get a little bit of an uptick in his scoring, but it doesn't jump to the point that I would have thought that it would. Looking at his points per 100 possessions, he jumps from 38 points per 100 to 42 points per 100 without Darius Garland. It's not like a huge swing in terms of what he does with him versus without him, especially for a guy that has so much volume as it is. So that's one of the things. And then looking at what Oklahoma City kind of does and what they do allow 3-point opportunities, but they're still pretty stingy to pick and roll ball handlers. They're excellent in transition. And the other thing is too, without Jalen Williams, I think that we might see a little bit of a smaller Oklahoma City lineup. I think we might see a little bit more Alex Caruso, a little bit more Cason Wallace. And I think that makes life a lot more difficult for Donovan Mitchell. I think it's going to force the ball out of his hands a little bit more. And, while he might dime to some of the other guys, it still is not a great matchup for anybody here. So I think that this is a really tough matchup for Donovan Mitchell. Early afternoon game against the Thunder. And I'm going to be grabbing under 28.5 points for him in this, what I think is a really tough spot against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Jim, before you go to your play, do you have any thoughts on either spot in this Thunder game?
That's a good question. I really like the Caps from both of you guys. I was leaning towards the Cavs at home, but man, it's just like every time they get stuff right, then it's like Garland toe again. While like he hasn't been like amazing this season, so you'd think that missing him wasn't as big a deal. It just seems like the vibes on it, like I don't know. I just don't want to touch this Cavs team right now, so I leaned that way.
Sam Merrill out too, so like they're really missing some shooting, I think.
Yeah, 100%. That'd probably be a stay away from me, mostly outside of I'll probably join you guys on both those Caps. I love the year of the under for Joe here in 2026.
It's actually been going pretty well, so not trying to jinx it, but it's hard. Like, it's just not the way. It's funny because I'm doing a little bit of an aside here. It's funny because that's not the way that I normally think about props. I normally am like, oh, I think this is a good matchup. I want to back this guy. But it's funny because a lot of times I'll have the conversation with myself and I go, I don't think this is a good matchup. I'm not going to bet this over. But in the meantime, I should probably just be betting the under.
It's like, oh, wait, there is a bet I can do this.
There is something else there, so we can do that. But Jim, what are you looking at for your 3-star?
Yeah, real quick before I give my 3-star, a hot take to run by you guys. Does MLK Day, can it sneaky be the best day before the playoffs in the NBA season? I mean, obviously Christmas is the obvious one, but Christmas usually I'm like trying to see family and like I don't really watch as much. I watch like tape games and stuff. MLK, I just put the TV on all day. They do the cool history. Atlanta's always playing. I think it's like sneaky as a case for the best day of basketball before the playoffs.
So many games too.
So many games
all day. Again, like you're not preoccupied with your family.
Always a plus.
So
my family is not big basketball people, so it's not like I can like gather around and watch with them. It would have to be like ditching them. So
it's funny too. My dad's coming over to celebrate his birthday tomorrow, so I'm like, oh well, I guess Dad will watch basketball.
All right. I'll launch into my 3-star. My top bet tomorrow is the Phoenix Suns -7.5. So a couple of factors here. They're playing the Brooklyn Nets. The Suns smoke bad teams. They are easily the number one team with a bullet against bottom 10 teams in terms of spread differential on cleaning the glass. They're plus 9.5 in those matchups. Our beloved Hornets are second actually at plus 7.6, but pretty notable gap there. There are a plus 16 point differential. So, the spread differential is compared to spread, just point differential overall. They're plus 16 in those games against bottom 10 teams with a 12-1 record overall. They also smoke teams on back-to-backs. This is a back-to-back for Brooklyn. They're fourth in the NBA with a plus 7.2 spread differential, plus 12.0 point differential. And when you combine the two, we're now getting into a really tiny sample, but it's 3 games. They're 3-0 with a plus 16.4 net rating in those games. So really run those bad teams off the court. They take care of business. Brooklyn is about average against top 10 teams. Phoenix is actually ninth by cleaning the glasses numbers. But on 0 days rest, again, we're splitting these numbers down pretty small, but it's fitting the pattern overall. They're 0-3 with a minus 27.3 point differential. That's second worst in the NBA. We will likely have Michael Porter Jr. here because he missed the first half of the back-to-back. But we could have other surprise sits for Brooklyn. I would not be surprised at all. On the Phoenix side of things, and this, I probably should have led with this. I think you can wait on this. I don't think you have to bet it this second. Hopefully you didn't already. You'll be fine, I think, if you did. But I think you want to wait and see the news because right now Devin Booker and Jalen Green are both listed questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Green doesn't play. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they use it as an excuse to give Devin Booker a day off as well. If the number moves down to like 5.5, that's going to be even better. I even without those guys, I'm going to want Phoenix. Phoenix takes care of business even when their best players are out. That's kind of what's been so good about them this season. So I don't think you have to rush to bet it. If they're both ruled in and it moves to 8.5, 9, I'm fine with that as well. This is really kind of like a pattern matching game on Phoenix doing really well against bad teams on the second half of back-to-backs. If Green does play, I will say, some people might be like, oh, Jalen Green's in. That's like a net negative. But they looked really good in their minutes with Jalen Green this season. 2 games against the Clippers way back in November. Tiny sample again, but they were plus 66 net rating in 27 minutes with him. So I'll be interested. Obviously, he's not going to stay at that level, but I do think that he actually, within this system might actually be able to do pretty well. And Phoenix is a team to watch here as he's coming back in the fold.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Jim, it is the front end of a back-to-back for Phoenix. Same thing with Philadelphia, actually. Philadelphia's playing in the front end of a back-to-back. So each of those teams kind of have players on the injury report. I think that Philly plays before they almost have the same tip. Philly starts at 7. Phoenix is at 7:30. I do wonder if there's going to be some shenanigans where if Philly plays Embiid against Indiana, then he probably sits the next day. Then does that influence what Phoenix does, in terms of who plays or who doesn't play?
I think Embiid sits to play against Phoenix, which then maybe means Booker sits to play against Philly.
Yeah. So I'm going to disagree with you. So I'm going to disagree with you because I'm going to go into my 2-star play because it's Joel Embiid over 26.5 points.
I mean, hey, it just voids if he doesn't play.
And the reason is because Joel loves to just destroy these teams that have like bad interior defenses. Yeah. And honestly, too, I think in my brain, I've had to kind of come to this realization over the past couple of years while we're betting and like while we're doing the show is teams want to win the games that they think that they have like much higher certainties of winning. And a game against the Indiana Pacers is a game that you should have a much higher certainty of winning than against the Phoenix Suns. And I think that you just play your best guys in those games and make sure you win them. And that's kind of why I think Joel Embiid plays in this spot. So I'm going to grab the over 26.5. He's destroyed Indiana when he played them. Earlier this season, about a month ago, he played them 32 minutes, 39 points in that game. Tyrese Maxey didn't play there, but he still just eviscerated them. And even looking back over the past couple of seasons, he's averaging 31.6 points per game against them. So had one game at 12 points, but the reason for that is honestly, he only played 17 minutes. If you exclude that game, averaging 36.5 points against Indiana, I think he's got this one just circled. I mean, if he doesn't play, he doesn't play. We're going to get a refund, but I got to grab 26.5 points. I think it's just way too low given the matchup. So that's going to be my 2-star play. And Brian, you know what? We'll just do 1 stars too. I'm just going to go into this and just co-op.
Wait, do you want to save the 1 star? Because we all have the same.
We're all on the same thing. Yeah. So this is why we have co-hosts here. So Brian, give us your 2-star play.
Bam Adebayo. Over 17 over 17.5 points. I woke him up because I went under and then he decided to have a game and it was like, oh, his back is fine now. Listen, we went from bad back Bam to PRP Bam. And I think because I don't know how the fuck else I could explain how his back looks shot. And now all of a sudden, these last 3 games, it's like, okay, he's back to where he was early on in the year, where it looked like, oh, he's going to be an all-star for, I think, the 4th time in his career. He's not now. most likely. But lately, the way he's been playing, really, really good. They're playing the Warriors. Jimmy Butler's supposed to play, barring anything last minute. And they didn't end off in the best of terms when they were teammates, as evident by what you saw last year when they played each other. The Heat destroyed them in that game, and it was around the time where the Heat lost 10 in a row. But they made sure they won that game, and bam, there's the photo of him face guarding Jimmy and Jimmy not really making eye contact, which I think he enjoyed. But his points prop is at 17.5. He's actually got 19 or more in 6 straight against the Warriors. Now, a couple of those are with Jimmy because, as we all know, Jimmy, except for this year, apparently, misses a lot of regular season basketball. Not as much as some other people like Ja Morant, or as much as Tyler Hero, who's going to miss this game as well. This is the start of a road trip for the Heat. Tyler Hero's not going to be there in this game. Bam is averaging about 17.5 points in games that Tyler Hero's missed, and that includes the really, really bad month of basketball, offensively at least, that he had been playing leading up to this recent stretch where he looks like his all-star self again. The Heat are the only team this year with wins over the Pistons and the Thunder, which do with that what you will. But they just beat the Thunder. He had 30. He had 22 against Boston in a loss. He had 29 against Phoenix in a win where he actually, like, that's the one where he busted the slump, and he's still at 17.5. So Vegas isn't quite buying it yet that he's all the way back. It's a small sample size, so do with that what you will. But it's been a decent matchup for him over the last few seasons. And I do think that we're seeing a different version of him based on him looking athletic again, him making threes again. These are things that went away for a month that seem to be back. So I'm going with that it's real. No, Tyler Hero does help because it helps focus the offense around him, around Norman Powell, and we'll see what else happens. And I think it's going to be a very spirited game between them and their ex.
Oh, Joe, you matted yourself. It's the host always has to forget to unmute.
It's impossible. It's just absolutely impossible. You know what? Honestly, I thought I was gonna sneeze, so I was like, I need to mute this. Then I just forgot. So here we are.
It's a tribute to our beloved leader.
I know. I can't stop for trying to be Matt right now. Jim, what are you looking at for your 2-star play?
I laid out part of this earlier. I'm doing the Jalen Johnson under 29.5 points and assists, running this back, hit this last game. Mentioned CJ's impact on his usage. It's clear Jalen's just not quite comfortable in that role right now. Through those 4 CJ games, he's averaging 15 points and 5.8 assists. That's like 20.5, way down from before. Just 14 field goal attempts a game. He was up at 23 points, 8 assists, and 17 field goal attempts for the season as a whole. So, the Bucks are far from an elite defensive team, but the game total is already trending down. It's taking about 3 points of steam to the under. So I'm gonna run this back. I'm gonna kind of watch the game and see if he looks more comfortable. But until he looks comfortable and starts hitting the over, I'm gonna be probably running this back for a bit, or until the books adjust. But for now, I think there's plenty of wiggle room to hit another Jalen Johnson under here.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of hammered down the point of what we think about this new Hawks look and what their rotations are. So I think this is a great actionable way to get into on it if you don't want to be betting just a future and you want to try to recoup some of that, some of those good bets early on and often here. So we're all kind of on the same version or a similar version of our 1-star play. Bryan, as the guest Jay here, I'll let you give the cat.
Giant.
We're all on Ivica Zubats. So what could possibly go wrong? Yeah. He's playing the Washington Wizards, who are going to be without some players, most notably Bilal Coulibaly on the injury report, not going to play in this game apparently. So wonder how that sort of affects things here. But Kawhi Leonard is not playing. Zubats is at 26.5 PR. We'll see where that's going to be. Me and Jim are on that, and Joe, I believe you like just the rebounds.
Yeah, I'm on the rebounds. I'm with you though overall on this look for the PR or the rebounds. I think you kind of go both ways. I might honestly split and do half on one, half on the other. But I know Jim's got a thought about Bilal being out, so I want to kick to Jim real quick.
No, I had read that wrong. I did not realize Bilal was out. Bilal being out actually makes this interesting, and I will make a clean sweep on the Zubac, but I will say to keep an eye on Harden too. I'll sprinkle some Harden now as well, because basically, Kawhi out, the usage is going to spread out. I had been leaning towards Zubac for points because I was thinking Harden would draw the Bilal assignment, but Bilal's out. That does open things up for Harden a little bit. So I think you want to be looking at both of these guys. In part because I kind of think Washington makes this a game. Like I was leaning towards a Washington spread. I couldn't quite get there in the end. But I think this will stay a game long enough that Harden and Zubac will both rack up decent stats here. Zubac is playing over 30 a game right now, even with Brook as his backup there. So I think we lean into it. Zubac, his rebounds really pop with Kawhi off the court. He's the number one Clipper to kind of benefit from that. Washington gives up the most rebounds per game. So as we're in the moment here, I kind of actually like maybe the Harden points and the Zubac rebounds. You kind of pair those together in like a little SGP, and maybe even Wizards to cover, because theoretically the closer the game is for a while, the more those guys have played, do like a little reverse correlated thing.
I think I would probably add in like a lower tier because they bumped hard. I honestly wanted to go to Harden's assists.
Big token already.
I would probably be looking at like a lower number here because when he's honestly had some crazy splits like with and without Zoo. And when he plays like with Zubac, he's averaging 8.4 assists per game. I think if you drop this down, like if he's had 5 in every game. 5 is going to be juiced to hell. But if you just wanted to go even to 6 or maybe even 7, because his prop line is all the way at 8.5.
No, I was saying Harden points, not Zubac points.
Oh, no. I was saying I think that Harden's usage is going to be insane. Like, yeah, and I think that I think that just the assist look against like in this matchup isn't bad, but I do think that you're right. Like Harden points is probably going to kill no matter what. But if you want to go like Harden points, Zoo rebounds, and then if you're looking for another leg, I know you want to say something with the Wizards to keep it close. I'm trying to put this out there because there's so many boosts that need either 3 legs or 4 legs or something like that. I wouldn't mind like a lower tier Harden assist number, like a 6 or something like that. If you just need something for that extra leg, just because his assist numbers with Zoo and without Kawhi even with Kawhi, it hasn't mattered at all. But as long as Zoo has played this season, he's averaging 8.2 assists per game. So he's just been cooking, 8.3 rather. So he's just been absolutely cooking from an assist perspective, as long as Zoo is on the floor.
I'm doing a little work here as we go. There's some ways you can approach this. I didn't get to anything that was like screaming. Did you put anything together? Those grabbing your eye?
For a full SGP.
Yeah, it seemed like they know what we're doing. Each leg I added was like plus like 20 cents. I was like, okay.
I know. I think if you did like Harden 25, Zoo 10, 10 rebounds, that is, Harden say 6 assists, and the part that's going to get us is going to be if you do the Wizards to cover, you're looking at plus 310 there. So that's not terrible. But it goes adding the Wizards to cover takes it from plus 116 to plus 310. That's really the leg that's like popping it up.
Yeah, I think this might be a decent. You could do Harden points assists. You can do a Zubac double, although I bet you it'll be juiced. But if you want like a floor play, you can do that if you're trying to look for a parlay. Because I know many of you do. I do think there's a world where, look, it's not inconceivable that Zubac's PR and Harden's PA go over, given that Kawhi Leonard is out and given what the Wizards matchup could be. The Wizards give up the most rebounds per 100 possessions in the NBA. They give up the 6th most points in the paint. They give up the 2nd most points, just period. Teams could shoot the lights out against them on any given night as well. I don't think it necessarily has to be an either or, even though it can. And then, there's a world where the Wizards just flop and this is over early, and neither guy needs to sniff their over, because it is what it is. I don't trust the Clippers to necessarily do that, especially without Kawhi, the way Kawhi's been playing. But there's a wide range of outcomes here. Hence why it's a 1 star for all of us.
Brian, I like the double-double approach. So if you do Zubac double-double, Harden 38 points and assists, that's his like flat points and assist line. That's plus 182. I like that. And then if you add the Wizards spread, you get to plus 450.
There we go.
I think that might be the approach.
And what's
So
the
you
spread
got-
again?
7.5.
So Jim, what is the parlay that we can just give out now as a semi-official buckets parlay here?
We'll do Zubac double-double, Harden points and assists, 38 plus, Wizards plus 7.5 is plus 450.
That's some nasty, just some nasty work on for this buckets parlay, but we love
Tell
it.
at your own risk.
You know, you gotta have a little bit of
the
fun
half
here.
star, quarter star play.
Yeah.
The quarter star, yeah, the quarter star. It's a shooting star. We'll call it that.
1/10 of a unit.
So, all right. So, guys, to recap, I'm going to be on Donovan Mitchell under 28.5 points, Joel Embiid over 26.5 points, and Zoo over 10.5 rebounds. Jim is on the Phoenix Suns minus 7.5, Jalen Johnson under 29.5 points plus assists, and Zoo over 26.5 PR. And Brian is on Aaron Wiggins over 10.5 points, Bam Adebayo over 17.5 points, and Zoo over 26.5 points plus rebounds. So again, much appreciated. Glad you guys could join the Future Jays plus Brian as we've traversed throughout this episode without our fearless leader, Matt Moore. And we'll see you this week. And let's continue to get buckets.